Welcome back. This is the Saturday edition of the South African Morning. Radioactive rhinos. Let me repeat that for you. Radioactive rhinos. Researchers in South Africa, Australia and the US are now investigating ways of devaluing rhino horns. It's such an important discussion. They're thinking of inserting radioactive material into the horns of rhino. They're hoping this is going to try and save the species from poachers. As you imagine, though, there's going to be quite a few people jumping up and down about this. Let's find out the opinion of James Larkin from Wits University. Hello to you, James. Very well known, of course, in the world of conservation and ecotourism. It's a pleasure speaking to you. James, so just speak to me about this radioactive material as a way of devaluing the rhino horn. Where's the idea come from? Has it gotten that bad? This is where we are now.
Listen, you know, poaching has got that bad. You look at the reports from the sandparks themselves when they've lost 67% of their animals over the last 10 years. So the numbers are going down. Yes, COVID stopped poaching for a while, but the numbers are going back up again. So, yeah, we've got to do something about it. And I had this idea a number of years ago and worked on it for a while, and then eventually got to the point where, rather than it being just an idea on a piece of paper, I took it to friends and colleagues of mine at Rosatom, and I said, are you interested? And they looked at the idea and they said, yes, they were very interested in helping this project along.
I'll tell you why I find this so interesting, because over the years, many stories covering the fight against poaching and poachers. But in the end, you can take down as many poachers as you can fire a rifle at. The problem is it's still a highly marketable commodity. Take away the demand, you take away the supply, you take away the value behind this. I imagine that's where the thinking is behind this.
That's part of the thinking, is that if you take away the demand for rhino horn, then there's going to be less poaching. But the other string to this whole idea is that by putting a small quantity of radioactive material into the horn, you actually make if the horn is poached and taken by poachers and smugglers, it makes it a lot more detectable globally as these items are smuggled from one country to another. There are something like 10,000 installed radiation monitors globally at various ports, harbours, border crossings, that sort of thing, which are all designed to detect radiation. This has all came about by an international effort to prevent terrorists acquiring and smuggling nuclear and radioactive material. So if we piggyback on the back of that, we then have, if you like, another large army of people who are capable of stopping or capable of detecting rhino horn that has been smuggled from one part of the world to the other. Because the routes aren't directly from sort of southern Africa to the Far East, but they do go via various different parts of the world, and all of these parts of the world have these installed detectors, so this makes it a lot harder to smuggle the stuff, and so we're trying to change the perception of the smugglers that actually this is not something they want to be involved in.
I'm so glad that there's somebody else in the conservation who's starting to use the word terrorism and eco-terrorism. I think that's the kind of point we've reached now, James. I agree with you as well. Let's, in the last minute or two I have with you, James, let's just obviously talk about the health concerns around this. It's one thing to insert dye into a rhino horn that's been removed. It's quite something else to be doing what we're talking about, radioactive material. Take me through the process. What are the health concerns here, if any?
Well, we've started the first phases of this research. You've seen the pictures yesterday and today, if you like, of what we were doing there was putting in some stable material that isn't radioactive, so we can make sure that there isn't movement from the horn to the animal. But what we will be doing in collaboration with our colleagues from the US, Australia, Russia, is to do what we call dose modelling, in that we will do very detailed computer modelling and then back that up then with some work using what we call phantoms, which are sort of models of the rhino head, to make sure that the dose of the radioactive dose that these animals get will do no harm, because that is the underlying principle, is first, do no harm to these animals. You harm them, what's the point of doing the work?
I have about a minute with you, actually. I thought I was running out of time, so I'm looking forward to your response on this. We're looking at some of the visuals of the rangers out in the field. It's well known now, isn't it, James, that you've got private farmers who do have rhino in order to try and protect the species. One of the issues, though, is just geographically. The Kruger National Park, considering where it is in the country and it's so easy to access from the other borders, is a problem. And it's such a vast area as well. What does the program look like as far as Sandpark's involvement is concerned? Is that even a possibility?
Look, we never say never, I think, is the answer. We would be delighted to work with Sandparks to try and reduce the amount of poaching going on. My dream is to have all the rhino in the country with their horns. I mean, why didn't nature grow them on the end of the nose of a rhino? The animal needs them. We don't need them. And, if you want to sort of come down to hard tax and money, that's why people come to South Africa, and some come to Southern Africa is for the privilege of seeing the big five. And who wants to see a rhino without a horn? Who wants to come and see the big 4.5, if you like? It's and you have to commend all of the people who are doing the work in anti-poaching. These guys do a significantly dangerous and very important job. But we want to give them an additional tool to make that life easier, so that they can then concentrate their efforts on some of the other endangered species that my fellow mankind feels they need to use for various reasons.
Yeah, let's hope it's always going to be a case of the big five, James Larkin, not the big four in years to come. I appreciate you speaking to us. James Larkin from the University of Witwatersrand.